everyone. It's Naomi Wolf, and I'm here with my personal hero, the extraordinary Dr. Peter McCullough. Welcome, Dr. McCullough.
Thanks for having me back on.
It's my pleasure. So Dr. McCullough is one of the most credentialed people I know. He's now Chief Scientific Officer of the Wellness Company, which we'll be speaking about at length. But he's also been clinical cardiologist, preventive cardiology, and advanced lipidology at Heart Place in Dallas. Before that, he was at Baylor University for over 7 years, medical center as consultant cardiologist and vice chair of internal medicine. Prior to that, chief academic and scientific officer, St. John Providence Health System, education, so many more credentials, UT Southwestern Medical Center, University of Michigan School of Public Health, Masters in Public Health Epidemiology, Baylor University, Southern Methodist, good heavens. So many awards and honors, including the Defender of Freedom Award from the Catholic Diocese, East Texas. So many organizations, and he's one of the most published, peer-reviewed cardiologists in the world, if not the most. Is that not correct, Dr. McCullough?
I've been focusing on heart and kidney disease throughout my career. So in that domain, I am the most published person in my field in the world in history. But since COVID-19 started, I'm one of the most published people in COVID-19.
Wow.
And now have over 60 peer-reviewed publications, despite tremendous bias against publications, and have many more in the submission phase. So my approach has always been to contribute academically, contribute in print, in the peer-reviewed literature, and let people evaluate the ideas, evaluate the data, and let everyone form their own conclusions. And this is how academic medicine worked prior to COVID-19, but something settled in on the academic community, as it did in the mainstream media, to form a line of thinking that there was only one right approach, and any dissenting view was going to be basically squelched. And in the peer-reviewed literature, recently I just had a paper, for instance, done with an Italian group where it was sent to a major peer-reviewed journal, and there were 5 associate editors, and they all told the editor they refused to handle the paper. They refused. Now, they could have said they could have just rejected it at the editorial office level. They didn't even reject it. They felt so disturbed, and it had to do with vaccine safety, that they refused to handle it. I mean, this is a major psychological phenomenon going on in editorial offices all over the world.
Yes, and not just in your field, but even Matthias Desmet, who's a psychologist, wrote about how he demonstrated with peer-reviewed sourcing that his thesis was not new, and that many people had talked about mass formation. I'm not weighing in on one side or another, but it was a similar kind of weirdly Inquisition-like reaction on the part of his university. They just didn't want to see the evidence. Dr. Simon Godek, who's involved in aquaculture, it also experienced this with a Dutch university. I've had my own version of it. All of us. I mean, there's a handful of us who, when we talk to each other, it's like we're refugees from a world we remember, in which science involved debate and multiple points of view, and journalism involved 2 independent confirmatory sources, and yet we're suddenly, since 2020, surrounded by this kind of like Galileo type, reality in which there is one answer, and someone on high dictates what the answer is, and we're persecuted if we deviate from that and operate according to post-Enlightenment, peer-reviewed academic or journalistic norms. So let me go to you, because you're such a modest person. You're always in service to humanity rather than you don't like the spotlight directly on you for your own accomplishments, which I respect. But I just want to share with our audience that to me, you're a hero for many reasons, but one of them is, as I always say when I speak with you, you took time out of saving everyone, even as you were in the middle of facing giant forces arrayed against you personally, to save a beloved relative of mine, and you gave very simple protocols. They worked. She was done with COVID in 24 hours. I've shared them with other loved ones since then. They were so heartbreakingly simple. You noted it, and they involved like a nasal rinse with betadine and other simple protocols, which makes sense. And you noted that Pakistan has managed to avoid a massive COVID hit using simple nasal rinses, with a neti pot multiple times a day with an antiseptic. And I bring this up because it was so moving to me that you would take time out to save one person. At the same time, I also want to note that you are one of the most, in terms of peer review, you're the most respected. I mean, to be the most published is to be the best, academically, at presenting your research and your thoughts. And yet, as you've said once, I'll never forget it, you were having affiliations erased from after your name one by one. So I guess what I want to ask in our brief time together is, tell me how that is for you. Tell me how you are hopeful every day and full of resourcefulness to continue the fight as impressively and assertively as you do, as peacefully as you do. And then tell me about the wellness company, because I assume that is the end point of this journey, or at least the current end point of this painful journey you've been forced to walk.
It's been I think the most remarkable 3 years, certainly, of my life. And I've told many that if I just helped one person, it was worth it. It really was. And that's what medicine is all about. We cure people very rarely. We would like to help people as often as possible, but we always care about them. Mm-hmm. And what I saw is a crisis of compassion. For the first time, doctors turned their back on patients. None of the major medical centers in the United States had early treatment programs. They let the virus slaughter patients, and they were hospitalized in large numbers. Sadly, almost everybody who died of COVID died in the hospital. Now what's going on with the vaccine is just extraordinary. I'm going to go to Houston in 2 days and be at my son's graduation from the University of Texas at Houston School of Medicine. And I asked him, I said, Sean, with all the patients coming in with blood clots and heart damage, and clear vaccine injury syndromes, I said, how is this playing out at your center? He told me the vaccine is never mentioned. It's never recorded in the history of physical. It's never recorded by the nurses or doctors. There's no mention of the vaccine, and yet someone would have an obvious vaccine-related problem. So there is complete and total willful blindness. I'm now in clinical practice north of Dallas, and my entire day is patients flying from out of town, so frustrated that they have a clear-cut vaccine-related problem and no doctor will recognize it. And not only that, doctors have no idea on how to manage it. Right. And so patients now are grasping at straws. This is the desperation that we're in, no doubt about it. So, personally, I've effectively been fired from 2 jobs for no reason, clear violations of contract and due process. The large employer then sued me with an allegation that, that I had brought them into the media spotlight, and I did it. And that was an exhaustive lawsuit that went nowhere. After 18 months, the judge dismissed it. And, I've had 2 editorships taken away simply by certified letter or by email. Wow. I've had 2 professors of medicine. Now, professor of medicine, there's a faculty senate, there's a due process. If a professor ever, had some act that was committed that the faculty didn't like, there would be a due process. I've been stripped of 2 professorships with no due process. I've had all of my National Institutes of Health committee work and other things completely stripped, again, by email or certified letter. Never a courtesy phone call, never a discussion about what people like or disliked about my work. And it keeps going. I was the president of the Cardiorenal Society of America, and I received a letter by certified mail that said the society was dissolved How do you
Oh,
dissolve a society? I'm the president. There was no board meeting. There's no due
it's
process.
insane. That's
So what
insane.
I've learned through freedom of information is that I am very high up in the list that government agencies are watching, including the CDC. I know that for sure. We know from the Twitter files that the FBI agents, former and current, are within Twitter, and Twitter never said they got rid of them. What we've learned in the last month is stunning, that the United States narrative has completely changed on the origins of the virus. Remember, prior to a month ago, the narrative was it arose out of nature somewhere in China or out of a fish market. Now the government agencies, the National Security Agency, the FBI, the Department of Energy, the National Institutes of Health, US Senate and House, all agree that it came out of the lab in Wuhan, China, an engineered virus by US ingenuity.
Right.
So you can see what's going on here. The interpretation, in short, is we're in some form of a national security operation, and the PrEP Act was invoked. Remember, the PrEP Act in 2005 was invoked if we were actually attacked.
Right.
And so as if we were attacked by SARS-CoV-2, the PrEP Act was activated, and everything we've seen are countermeasures. And countermeasures is like a military operation. It's going to be done. If the military says it's going to be done, it's going to be done. If the military says it's not going to be done, it won't be done. And so the countermeasures were to wait for a vaccine and not provide any forms of early treatment. So we're under some type of national security operation. Yeah, I appear to get in the way of this national by compassionately trying to take care of patients and using my scholarship to help teach others how to do so. And I think that explains this worldwide calamity that we're in. Whatever national security operation is going on worldwide simultaneously by all companies.
Very true. And well, the national security operation, as you know, my point of view is that the injections themselves are part of whatever the attack is. And I've traced the manufacturer and the IP to the Chinese Communist Party in my own independent research. And so let's go back to the wellness company in our last few minutes. I mean, what you've described is so terrifying, and the pieces are being put together that show exactly that. You were the first person to say it to me, and I was so taken aback. It was months ago, if not over a year ago. You said something like there's deliberate euthanasia going on in Northern Europe. And I was like, is this guy crazy? But I respect your credentials so much, and I respect you so much. I looked into what you said, and we have our own independent researchers, these 3,500 experts, finding the greatest crime against humanity ever in the Pfizer documents, and it does indeed look like not just deliberate euthanasia, but deliberate invocation of mass disability and mass sterilization. And when we have more time, we can talk about that. But in our last few minutes, I really want to talk about the wellness company, because you have been hounded illegally out of every, these major affiliations. Totally unlawful, totally unethical, but it happened. You have tremendous courage, knowing, that you're, on the list. I'm on the list. I consider myself privileged to be on that list with you. But, it takes a lot of courage every day to proceed as you have. Now you're with the wellness company, which is going to disrupt pharmaceutical practice and hospital practice and clinical practice as it's deteriorated over the last decade or two, and create a new model, as I understand it, which is more ethical, more in line with your tremendous ethics. So please talk to me about your role in the wellness company and why you think it's the answer. And please talk about solutions for vaccine injury, because I'm in despair, and a lot of people are, as you mentioned.
Well, I'm glad you've segued into this. The wellness company is coming up on 1 year of operations. It was started by e-commerce juggernaut Foster Colson from British Columbia, a young Canadian, a storied family. The Colson Aviation Group produced some of the best planes in the world, elite planes. And Foster has used his talents to bring together a company where there are vertical operations, health and wellness and media, nutraceuticals and supplements, medical care through telemedicine and shortly through brick and mortar clinics, and dental care. This is very important
Wow.
dental care. And so for a basically a computer application that you can do from your computer, you can enroll and have no health insurance whatsoever.
Amazing.
And there's a variety of plans, enroll and then actually receive healthcare. So for example, if a patient was a diabetic and they didn't have healthcare, they could enroll. The lowest plan, I think, is less than $10 a month. Doctor visits roughly $60. It is a cash-based system, and they could receive their care for diabetes, have labs ordered, go to a lab, get the labs, prescriptions prescribed, necessary diagnostics. Again, big focus on non-pharmaceutical methods of management and nutraceuticals and supplements, get all the educational material for an incredibly low cost. Same thing, no dental care. There now are dentists in this network that will see patients and take care of do their dental care for a very affordable cost. Acute COVID care has been revolutionized because the wellness company uses community pharmacies that will not block prescriptions, so patients get the medicines that they need. And the medical board, of which I'm on, and I serve on that on a part-time basis, but I'm paired up with Richard Ammerling, who was a fellow academic with me for decades as a senior medicine doctor, nephrologist. And Richard actually stepped out of his role in academic medicine and went to the New York front lines and treated COVID patients face-to-face in critical care during the big bulge. So I give him tremendous credit for that. Heather Gessling, who is a family physician, who like me is in practice, but she's also advising the wellness company. And then Harvey Risch, who's a retired professor of medicine from Yale. And so we advise the company, and one of our principal, I think, major accomplishments so far is to come up with a formula, a nutraceutical that has great promise in handling vaccine injuries. What we realize with the vaccine is it installs a genetic code for endless production of the spike protein. The spike protein is the injurious part of the virus. It's the stick on the ball of the virus. The spike protein in high enough quantities and in the wrong location, wrong person, is fatal. It's a fatal protein. We've never seen a protein in medicine that's proven to cause damage to the heart, the brain, the other vital organs, the bone marrow, and cause blood clotting. We've never seen this in medicine, and people have taken the vaccine. We know now in the United States now, 75% of adults have taken a vaccine. We know that from the COVID States program, Northeastern University and Harvard published that. It's actually good to look at the other side. 25% didn't. Boy, I didn't. I'm so happy I didn't take a vaccine. But those who've taken the vaccine now are on the scramble. What we've learned through the wellness company is that a Japanese innovation called nattokinase is a product of the fermentation of soy. There's a bacteria that breaks down soy, but it also produces this important enzyme. The enzyme is stable, and the Japanese have used it for about 2 decades because it's anti-atherosclerotic. It actually helps relieve some blockages that develop in the body with atherosclerosis, and it's also a form of a blood thinner. And so in 2 preclinical studies from China, one from Japan, Tanakawa, notable, it dissolved the spike protein nearly completely.
Oh my gosh.
This is really amazing. So the spike protein has about 1,200 amino acids. It has some vulnerability. It has some cleavage joints, and nattokinase is just the right enzyme to cleave it and allow the body to basically break it down. Otherwise, the spike protein is nearly indestructible. The human body is stuck with this as it's trying to break it down. So nattokinase, because it's already shown to be safe, we know a single dose gets into the bloodstream, starts to influence blood tests. We are, in a sense, using this chain of logic to say this is reasonable now ahead of clinical trials. We can't make any therapeutic claims of what would happen in humans because it's going to take randomized trials and ultimately full pharmaceutical development. I can tell you anecdotally, when people start to take this, it takes about 2 months to have some clinical response. Let's say a small fiber neuropathy, and there's numbness and tingling, and people feel miserable. I'll say, listen, start the nattokinase. Again, can't make any therapeutic claims, but I think it's very reasonable to do so. It's called the Wellness Company Spike Support Supplement, 2 capsules twice a day. And in about 2 months, then the symptoms start to resolve. And so I want people to understand that. Now,
Thank God.
also in the supplement are other components that we believe help antagonize the spike protein, including black sativa extract, there's Irish green moss extract, green tea extract, selenium. So it's the only product out there right now that seems to be perfectly positioned for this. Those with cardiac involvement, I add some prescription drugs. There's an additional supplement that provides everything we need for heart and muscle performance and recovery. And then the list goes on from there. But the wellness company has a team of doctors that, in a sense, are open for business. Many companies now are using it as a supplemental for just $10 a month, just to have a backup access, keep people well. Big focus on wellness. People losing weight, resolving diabetes, hypertension through non-medicinal ways. And they started a new program. You're going to be blown away with this. For under $200 a month, if one signs up for that, this One Wellness, everything after that is free. All the doctor's visits, all the nutraceuticals and supplements, anything anybody wants to buy on the website. And what I've said is, boy, if someone doesn't have health insurance and they're diabetic or hypertensive, what have you, wow, this is really, really big. And on my podcast on America Out Loud Talk Radio, McCullough Report, if you go onto America Out Loud Talk Radio and click on the banner bar, they give an additional 25% off of that. So it cuts it down to, I think under $150 a month.
So that's a wonderful summary, and that makes me feel hopeful. I know you're continuing to innovate with your colleagues. You have the best of the best with you. I mean, your team is a team of heroes, as well as highly accomplished medical advisors. And you always make me feel like, in the face of the most horrible thing humanity has ever witnessed, there is hope, and there's hope in large part because of people like you, heroes like you, real healers like you and your colleagues. Dr. McCullough, thank you so much for being with us. And where can people find these supplements? What's the website?
Go to twc.health. twc.health. That's the wellness company. Go there, and the discount pathway right now is to go to America Out Loud Talk Radio, McCullough Report, and Vannevar. Always want to save some medicine when we can. For my social media, I'm very active like you are. Go to my website, petermcculloughmd.com, and that'll take you everywhere on social media. I just hit over 800,000 followers on Twitter, and they're actively unfollowing, trying to block me any way they can. So I know millions more want to follow our message. We will win in the end. We will prevail. The truth will prevail. I want the world to know that we're in a time where there is some type of mental contagion spreading from one another, and only the truth, and I think compassion and honesty can break it. And I'm with you. I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful, Dr. McCullough. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. It's Naomi Wolf of DailyClout. And I just want to give a thank you to our sponsor, the Wellness Company, whose chief medical team includes some of our most respected colleagues, including Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Harvey Risch. So the Wellness Company offers COVID and vaccine injury treatments, including ivermectin, as well as dietary supplements based on the guidance of these noted physicians and epidemiologists, such as Spike Support, which is designed to help combat a spike protein. So click on the link below or head to dailyclouthealth.com to purchase their products. You can also gift healthcare to your loved ones, which is something I've been doing. I'm excited about the Wellness Company being able to offer medical advice without the pressure of Big Pharma. Please use the code DailyClout for 10% off. Thank you again to the Wellness Company, our sponsor. Bye-bye.